In this week's episode of the Stockscores Market Minutes, we're going to talk about price channels and how to trade them. I'll do my market analysis of the stock markets, the gold and oil market, the Bitcoin market. We'll look at the day trade of the week on CLOV and do a market scan to practice your day trading skills. All right, so how do we trade price channels? First of all, what is a price channel? Well, if we use the upward trend as an example, a price channel occurs when you can draw a line across the bottoms in an upward trend and then draw a parallel line that hits the top of that upward trend, creating a channel pattern. I'll show you in a moment on a chart. The idea is that when the stock hits the top of the channel, it tends to come back down to the bottom. And the buying opportunity occurs when the stock gets to the bottom of the channel and then starts to go up again. It's a good swing trading strategy for stocks that are in long-term upward trends. Let's take a look at a chart and see what it looks like. So here we have the chart of Marathon. What we need to draw the trend line are a starting point and the first pullback. So we have that there. We then draw a line across them. We can then draw a parallel line across the tops. There's our channel. We had another one sort of like this. Now, when price runs away from the trend, we expect it to pull back. We talked about that last week. When it pulls back and makes that green candle near the upward trend line, that's our buy point. It runs away, it pulls back. That's our buy point. It runs away, it pulls back. That's our buy point. And you can swing trade in and out for 4 or 5 day holds sometimes on these bounces off of the bottom of the channel. All right, let's get into this week's market analysis, starting off with the US. Oh, actually, let's first talk about the upcoming webinars that I have next week. Tuesday, I will do one on how to invest in the stock market profitably. Wednesday, we'll talk about day trading the stock market, my techniques and tools for that. And then this coming Saturday, April 24th, the time there is 10 a.m., not 9 a.m. Let's just change that. 10 a.m. on Saturday next weekend, I will go over some of the trader training options, including the mentorship program, which will be starting early in May. All right, now let's get into the U.S. markets. And here we have a chart of the SPY. You can see that the intraday chart is in this pretty decent little upward trend. The volume has been pretty light. You can see volumes are quite low there. And so this market is drifting up. There's not a lot of excitement in the market when you consider that it's hitting new highs. There's really not a lot of action in individual stocks. On the longer term weekly chart, you can see that we're getting to the top of the channel and therefore due for a pullback soon. No sign of one yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if we had a few days of weakness. Onto the NASDAQ 100, it's made a nice comeback. It is still lagging the S&P, but it broke that pullback from a rising bottom and it's had a nice little run higher. And that's largely the really large cap stocks like Apple and Amazon and those sorts of things that are pulling this market index higher and also contributing to the strength in the S&P 500. On the Russell 2000, which is the small caps, you can see that they are not participating in the strength. We've been going sideways for a while and we need this to break out into this sort of a situation where we've got a nice upward trend. That's what creates lots of opportunity in those lower price stocks. Looking at the Canadian markets, also in an upward trend, very similar to the S&P and similar on the weekly chart as well. No sign of weakness, maybe a little overextended to the upside, but no sign of breakdown, so we have to stick with the trend. The TSX Venture is lagging the large cap stocks in Canada, building what's called a descending triangle. It is sort of at the upward trend line. If we give it the benefit of the doubt, it's kind of hanging out there, but I worry that we may see a breakdown through support, and that could lead to some more selling pressure in the microcap stocks in Canada. On to currencies, US dollar still trying to stabilize after many months of weakness, but it is building rising bottoms. It has broken the downward trend line. So I think in the months ahead, it should continue to stabilize and strengthen. On the Bitcoin market, we're building what's called an ascending triangle, where we have rising bottoms towards a flat top You can see volatility compressing. If we can break out of this, then we should be good to continue that longer term upward trend. If instead we break down and start moving down through these low points, then I would be bearish or at least cautious with Bitcoin. Commodities, gold is trying to stabilize. It still has not broken this pullback line. So we're sort of in this downward sloping channel still, but we've had 4 or 5 weakness or weeks of strength or at least stability. So that's a good sign, but there's still work to be done there. Oil market broke its pullback. So you can see it pulled back for about a month in this upward trend. That's called a flag pattern. And when you break the flag, there's a good chance you continue higher. So I would look for perhaps some strength or the resumption of strength in the energy sector. And finally, the fear chart, very low, no fear in the market. So my ratings then bullish on both time frames for US and Canadian stocks, neutral for gold, and bullish long-term, neutral short-term for oil. There is a divergence between the large cap indexes moving in a good upward trend, while the small cap languishes and tech lags the trend. Volumes are pretty light, and that indicates a lack of buyer enthusiasm, so be selective. Gold has made gains, but its volume is also light, and it is still below resistance in that little downward trend. Now, oil may resume the uptrend with that break this week. Fear is relatively low. All right, let's go on to the day trade of the week, and we're going to look at it a little differently this week with a discussion of what are called flag patterns. So when you have a stock trading abnormal volume and it makes these little pauses, these are called flags, and you can buy those flags as quick little trades for the very short-term day trader. Now this stock for the day from the action candle did quite well. It went up as much as 10 RR, finished the day at 4.6 RR, which represented a 37% return. But if you missed it, and it wasn't really a great setup to start the day, then you get the second chance on these flag breaks later in the day. Once the upward trend line was broken from the falling top, then I think it was time to be out of this trade, getting out maybe at around 7 times risk. All right, now let's jump into the Stockscores market scan. And what we're going to do is just run a scan for day traders. This is a great little scan to do on the weekends, after hours, just to practice. Pick the day trader scan from the preset list for active trader members. It's there, called the day trader, and run the scan. And what you can do is look at these charts. These are all stocks that traded very abnormal volumes, high volume traders. And you can look at some of these charts and look for those patterns on the intraday. So for example, CLOV we just looked at, I can click on the 2-day and blow it up, and I can again just see the flag patterns in the upward trend. It's just a nice way to practice. I like to do this on a regular basis in the evenings, looking for those stocks that were trading really abnormal volume, and then just to see if there were some intraday breaks on the stock that I could have taken advantage of. Once we see that the stock is trading with abnormal volume, so for example, there you can see the abnormal volume on this stock, and there it breaks from a little ascending triangle, led to a big gain. So you're practicing your pattern recognition, yes, with the benefit of hindsight, but it's a useful way to sort of in the evenings, if you weren't able to watch the market during the day, identify some of those opportunities. All right, well, that has been the Stockscores Market Minutes for, what is it now, April the 17th. Hope you've enjoyed it. Trade well.